Zenmala, Zenmala. Okay, I guess that's how you say what up in Chinese, but I don't know if I said it right, but it works. Anyways, I'm sitting at home watching the Burritos losing 3-0 to the Seahawkitos. Um, yeah, so I may be making some comments. Actually, there was just a commercial break where on Colbert they announced that tomorrow night Michelle Obama will be on. So I wonder if she's going to talk about school lunches. All right, we go through this relatively quickly. I feel bad because some people could not make the review session, so I decided since the Lions don't play till tonight, that I will be doing some quick screencastitos to help those children who weren't able to make it. So voter turnout. We talked about this Friday, so I'm going to go relatively quickly through this set of notes, hopefully under 10 minutes, but we know that's not going to happen. As you know, these amendments, 15th, 19th, 24th, and 26th amendments increased the number of voters in America. Didn't necessarily increase the percentage of voters in regards to turnout, but increased the number of voters by extending suffrage or the right to vote. So African American males with the 15th Amendment, the 19th Amendment females. 24th Amendment helped continue suffrage for African Americans, in the South by banning the poll tax, which was used after the 15th Amendment was passed, allowing African Americans to vote. Many states in the South initiated different laws to make it much more difficult for minorities. And you could argue individuals who don't have a lot of money with the poll tax. Literacy tests were also used in the South to prohibit African Americans from voting primarily. And the Voters' Rights Act of 1965 does away with the literacy tests. So you can go the amendment route or you can go the legislation route to help increase in regards to suffrage, the amount of voters in America. 26th Amendment lowers the minimum age to 18. Anyone who is 18 or older is allowed to vote. Please understand that states determine the vast majority of qualifications in regards to voting. And we're going to add photo ID laws, as some states recently have started to initiate them to, as a qualification for voting, you must have a photo ID. Remember, not just a driver's license. It could be a state ID. It could be a passport. So when you talk about residency, how long you have to live in a state before you can vote, you talk about age in the state of Illinois, lowering the age to 17 if you are voting in the primary, but will be 18 by the general election, etc. Voter turnout in the United States is low. Presidential turnout during those, oh my goodness gracious, unbelievable. Yeah, I get it. I've for 2 years said no to this update. Anyways, 55%. If the election is close, I suspect that next fall it'll be close to 60%. Midterm or congressional years where there isn't a presidential race, much lower, usually in the 30 to 40% range, even lower when it is just a local election like school board. So more individuals than not tend not to vote in elections, which is really a sad commentary. In the United States, we've had a decline in voter turnout since the 1960s. So reasons, institutional or again, are government barriers. Registration, individuals don't necessarily know where to register to vote. So that may have a direct effect on people not voting. The motor voter bill was designed to increase voter turnout by forcing individuals, the states, a mandate to the states that they must offer the ability to register when you go to the Department of Motor Vehicles. The reality is that we do not have a significant increase in voter turnout. We have an increase in registered voters, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to actually go out and vote on election day. General election, again, tends to have a greater turnout than primary. I think the primaries this year will be a little bit higher than normal, especially in the Republican primary. You're probably going to have a pretty good turnout. Presidential is greater than congressional or midterm elections, and national elections tend to elicit a greater turnout than state or local elections. As you know, young people turn out at the lowest percentage. Um, the older you are, the more likely you are to vote. Um, Disenfranchisement of institutionalized populations, institutionalized meaning in prison or jail, or maybe you're on parole. In some states, they've said if you've committed a felony, you will never vote again. Personal reasons or political reasons, a lack of political efficacy, that you can feel that you have an influence on elections, dissatisfaction with the parties, candidates, leaders of the parties, lack of a minor party or competition from minor or third parties. Oftentimes they have difficulty getting on the ballots. We'll get into that in Unit 3. And sometimes parties are not very good at getting their voters to show up at the polls. Barack Obama in 2008 did a fantastic job in getting Democrats to show up, and that probably won him the election that year. Uh, Again, reasons for a decline in voting. You have demographics of voters who traditionally do not turn out at a higher rate than previous to them getting the vote. Young people, for example, in the 26th Amendment turned out at a lower percentage than the overall percentage prior to them getting the vote. Less party identification. If you're not very strongly aligned with the two major parties, maybe you don't feel like voting. Cynicism, you're cynical of the political process and politicians. Apathy, you just don't care. And a loss of efficacy. You don't feel like your vote could make a difference. Who votes? Who doesn't? Who cares? Level of educational achievement is the greatest predictor of voting. If you have a high level of education, it is statistically more likely that you will vote than those with a lower level of education. Income, those with higher levels of income tend to vote at a higher rate than those with lower levels of income. As I mentioned in class, it could be those with lower levels of income may have to work multiple jobs and can't make it to the polls. Age, the older you are, the more likely you are to vote. And then, of course, race. Caucasians vote at a slightly higher percentage than African Americans, who vote at a slightly higher percentage than Hispanic voters. And obviously, different geographic areas of the United States, those numbers, vary. But statistically, and again, we use exit polls to make these hypothesis, I hate saying that word, to come up with these statistics. So again, understand that it doesn't necessarily mean that Caucasians vote 90% of the time. It's slightly higher, and these percentages, again, vary by election, and they vary by location. I would say the south side of Chicago probably has a higher percentage of African Americans voting than some of the other races. And in some areas, they break it down even further into different races, especially in a diverse city like Chicago. So hopefully that helps. I will do factors affecting voter turnout next. Peace.